It's The Last Stand. And here is your host, Brian Custer.
That's right. It is The Last Stand. We bring you the biggest names in sports and entertainment. And in the sport of boxing, our guest is one of the best. World champion she is. In fact, she is the unified featherweight world champion. She's a world champion in 7 different weight divisions. She's the only female fighter to accomplish that. The only fighter of Puerto Rican descent to win world titles in more than 4 weight divisions. She is known as the real deal. She's Amanda Serrano. Champ, how are you? Welcome to The Last Stand.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I'm doing great. I hope everyone else is doing great as well.
Well, it's good to talk to you. Good to see you. And, listen, let's jump right in because last time we saw you, obviously in the end of August, coming off a dominating unanimous decision and performance over Yamileth Mercado, who was a champion in her own right. What'd you think of your performance?
I really haven't saw it yet. When you're in there, you really don't know how you're doing. But I really wanted the knockout. I think I could have done more to achieve that goal. But I give myself maybe a B- because that wasn't the best Amanda Serrano in that ring.
Well, listen, Mercado was tough. She was coming up in weight. But you talked about getting a knockout, and I think you and Jake Paul even had a little side bet on who was going to have the better knockout of the night. Were you disappointed you didn't get a stoppage?
You know what Mercado did? She I guess listened to her corner and she did her job. She didn't want to engage with me. I thought that was the whole plan, that we was going to engage in that fight, and she changed it up. So, it was a great performance. I was glad that it was on Showtime pay-per-view. The commentators they were able to say things about me, and the fans were able to see that I can box, I can fight, I can do whatever I choose to do in that ring. So,
and was it good for the sport, especially for female boxing, in your opinion?
I believe so. I believe it gave females a lot of attention. They saw that we can fight. We can put on a show with my outfit, with the shoes. I think my sneakers alone got its own spotlight. But it was an amazing night. After that, I was taking so many pictures, and I don't think it was people over the age of 25. They were all young kids asking for my pictures, saying how they idolize me, how they admire me, and it was just a different viewership, and it was so cool to see all those young faces actually seeing a different side of boxing. Women can fight, and I was just glad that I was able to put on a show like that with Mercado. We put on a hell of a show. And I hope that they can keep coming back for female boxing. Yeah,
absolutely. It seemed like the only downside that was written was your trainer. And I want to read what Ring Magazine wrote. Ring Magazine wrote, Jordan Maldonado actions after the fight were, quote, appalling. Calling Mercado, Serrano's opponent, trash, a coward, a pendeja. Mercado also said once the fight was over, Maldonado came to her corner, called her trainer a gay slur in Spanish, and called her garbage. What did you think about your trainer's his actions? Did they go too far?
When you're in there, I don't know. I wasn't. I really, it was all untrue. I know Jordan, and I know what I know him as a person. He has nothing against Mercado. I think when there's men involved, he has nothing to do with women. He was addressing her corner. But I like I told you, I haven't seen the fight. I haven't heard what was said, and I know it wasn't towards Yamileth. He wanted Yamileth. He wanted a Mexican fighter because he knows Mexicans bring on a great show. That whole Puerto Rico Mexican rivalry, it brings the best in shows and in fights. So that's why he wanted a Mexican. We love Mexican. Actually, I was like, oh man, a Mexican. You have to fight a Mexican. You have to be mentally and physically prepared to go in there with a Mexican. But he was like, nope, we're fighting. It's on Showtime. We're fighting a Mexican. So, I don't know what happened. I know it wasn't even towards Yamileth, because Yamileth, this was a new corner for Yamileth. And it was it's been years of that corner disrespecting me outside of it. So a lot of people really don't realize what happened. I still don't know. Jordan is still going to be my trainer no matter what. And he's still going to be by my side, training me, managing me. So, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Got it. So you trained alongside Jake Paul. And I guess the first question is, after the performance you saw against Tyron Woodley, everybody is wondering, in your opinion, because you train with him, you're one of the best, can Jake Paul beat a professional fighter?
I definitely believe so. Jake Paul showed that he's a professional fighter. He became a professional fighter that night. Jake Paul doesn't have any amateur experience. He only had one amateur fight, and he's learning on the job. And he's going up against Tyron Woodley, who was a champion, a multiple-time champion in the UFC. I know MMA is a different sport than boxing, but he has that fighter's mindset, and he went out there and he proved that he can go in there with a fighter. I think he still has time to grow. This was like his first test, and I think he answered the questions, and he's gonna go back into the gym, and he's gonna realize that he went in there and he needs to fix on certain things. But I think he definitely going forward, he's proven that he can be a professional fighter.
And do you see, because, obviously you've been training alongside him, do you see that this is something that will continue on as far as his fighting career? Or is this something just another year? Or is this something we're going to see Jake Paul here for a number of years like yourself in the ring?
No, I think so, because he has a lot to prove now. Now he can't just start something, he has to finish it. So I think he definitely is going to continue, training alongside him. He surrounded himself with great people, with boxing people, with people in the sport, and he's getting feedback from a lot of people, negative or positive, but he wants to prove everyone wrong. So I think he's here for the long run.
Now, Christy Martin has the record, 32 knockouts before she retired. You're 2 knockouts away from tying that, 3 from breaking that record. Is that a record that Amanda Serrano will break?
Of course. Records are meant to be broken, and that's one of them that I have to break. So yes, that's definitely one of the goals. And Christy Martin, she was one of the pioneers in the sport. She helped all of us out, and love her to death. But sorry, Christy, that record gotta go.
Back to Jake Paul. It was reported that after the fight that Jake Paul gave $1 million of his purse to some of the fighters on the card. And in the story, it says that he reportedly gave you $500,000 as a bonus. Is that true?
He gave us some. I mean, not he gave some, but yeah.
Okay.
Jake Paul, he definitely, even in the beginning, he took a pay cut so everyone else on the card can get paid well. And that's, if you like him or don't, you have to appreciate that. As a fighter, as a female fighter at that, we don't get too many opportunities where we fight on Showtime pay-per-view, where we have a great platform and where we make money. And, he sees that, and he's a great advocate for female in sports. And I really appreciate that. And I'm hoping to continue to work with him and his team.
But as he, obviously his team put out there that he had given you a $500,000 bonus. I assume that was, let's say, exaggerated.
I mean, unless they're gonna give me the rest a little later, but
okay. Gotcha. After Katie Taylor is another great fighter who just got a win over Jennifer Hahn. After her win, her promoter Eddie Hearn said the only fight that needs to happen is Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. Do you believe that you two will fight by the end of the year or at the beginning of 2022?
Well, I agree 100% with Eddie Hearn. This fight needs to be made, but I don't think it will be the end of this year. Like I said multiple times, my goal is to become undisputed champion at featherweight. it's been a really long road and hard road to get those other champions. I'm halfway there, but if things may have changed, I might. If that route doesn't go, then we're gonna try to get a fight by the end of this year, maybe December, at 135, 130, 135. So leading up to the Katie Taylor fight, and hopefully early next year we can get the Katie Taylor fight. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. That's a fight that everybody wants to see, including me and my team. And the money definitely has gone up, the respect, and definitely we achieved that goal of getting the respect from Eddie. And I can't wait till that fight comes.
Now you and Katie were supposed to fight. I think it was in August of 2020. COVID.
May 2020.
May, yeah. Then all of a sudden you have COVID. Was reported that was one of the reasons. They also said Amanda Serrano pulled out of the fight because of financial reasons. So this is the last stand. Give us the scoop. What really went down?
Well, okay, the whole COVID thing was understand. We had a set. People don't understand that it went back from the Heather Hardy fight. We had to sign a contract the day. 2 days before the Heather Hardy fight, saying that we had to fight Katie Taylor X amount. We had to sign a contract right now to fight Katie Taylor for an X amount, or for 150K, or the Heather Hardy fight is not going to happen. And that's 2 days before. We've trained our butts off. We had everything. We did the open workout, everything. And I'm like, so we was like, we signed the contract so we can fight Heather. And then I fought in Miami in January. And then Eddie Hearn approached the team and said, listen, if we take it to Manchester, we can give you a little more money. So we said, why not? It's the same girl. So, okay, let's do it. And then COVID came, and then the fight was postponed. I never got a phone call from anyone, not even from my promoter at the time. I found out on Twitter. So wow. I was like, oh, okay, that sucks. So it was postponed to 4th of July 4th. I was like, okay. So we stood in the gym. At this time, I had hired a nutritionist because I'm a legitimate featherweight. So I had to, make sure I wanted to be strong for Katie, because Katie's a strong fighter at 135. So I hired nutritionists, trainers. I was going back and forth to Staten Island for sparring. I had hired sparring partners. So we were still training. And then the July 4th, once again, through Twitter, I found out that the fight was canceled with no date in mind. So it was like, what happened? So it was like, whatever. Then it came back that said, oh, since there's no seats and no crowd in the stadium, we want to cut the price in half. They wanted to give us the original thing. And I was like, and we still have to go to Manchester. And Manchester, they take out $25,000 off the back. Wow. And then it's for Undisputed Championship. So I have to pay each organization their pay. It was just a crazy amount at the time of COVID. I was like, you know what? This fight is gonna happen no matter what. People are gonna want to continue to see this fight. And I said, it's going to happen one day, and we're going to get a bigger pay. And look, today, Eddie Hearn understood. We went a different route. We wanted to become Undisputed Champion. We established ourselves as a real champion, going out, getting 2 belts. And so now the offers is a lot. I'm telling you, a lot better than what I was offered the first time. And I'm super glad. People call me crazy. People call my team stupid, crazy. I'm scared of Katie Taylor. No, the only thing I was afraid of was the dollar amount. Now it doesn't matter. I came into the sport of boxing to fight. I'm not gonna pick and choose who I'm gonna fight. This is fighting. It's what we do. If I would have chosen another sport, if I was afraid to fight. But Katie Taylor is a hell of a champion, and why not? If you want to be the best, you have to fight the best. And I'm super, super pumped and excited for this fight. And we hope in 2022 that fight comes along.
Fantastic. Then what do you say to? And I was reading up on some of the articles that they had written about you, Amanda. What do you say to those who have written? It says Amanda Serrano more concerned about collecting vacant belts and getting instead of getting big fights to enhance her legacy. What's your response to that?
Okay, now there's a story about vacant belts. If you look back at all these vacant belts, these these belts had champions in those weight classes. You know, I am the WBO super champion, so I was able to with that I'm able to challenge any champion in the organizations. They all were champions in those organizations. You know, it went to purse. A couple of them it went to purse bid, and the girls. I'm not saying the girls were afraid. Girls want to get paid for fighting me. I understand that. So the purse bids, they were giving them practically nothing, and I understand that. So they said that they'd rather vacate it than to fight me. So what am I gonna do? I'm saying, oh no, then forget it. I'm getting the opportunity to fight for a title. I want to fight the champion in that division, but I never got the opportunity because they vacated. So that's the story.
And listen, this may be only my perception, but it seemed like I would say maybe a good 3 fights ago, Katie Taylor was really on the rise. But if you look at the last 3 fights, it's like, whoa, she's been tested a lot in her fights. Where if you've been dominating your opponents, it almost seems like now's the right time to get her. Do you see that as well? And do you see it when you two fighting a dominating performance by Amanda Serrano?
I mean, that fight was always going to be a great time to fight each other. You know, we want to consider ourselves the best, so we have to fight each other. But yeah, I mean, she hasn't fought anyone like me. I mean, I understand. I'm a little girl. It's one featherweight, but my power goes with me in any weight division I go. And she's never fought someone as ferocious as me, as forward as me, and skilled as me, and that hits just as hard as me. So I'm super excited to see that fight.
Listen, there are some really talented female fighters. You know, listen, Christina Hammer, Jessica McCaskill, just to name a few. But they have used boxing and then their looks and sexuality to gain a lot of attention, to get sponsorships, recognition, all that kind of stuff. But Champ, let's be honest, you're a very good-looking woman, and you've not gone that route. So tell me why.
It's not needed. I'm not a sexual person, I guess. I'm not. I don't feel like that's needed to. I pay. I go in there, fight in the ring, and I give it all my skills. I show my skills. I'm considered. I feel as though I'm a role model. A lot of girls in Puerto Rico started boxing because of me and my sister, and I've gotten videos of girls like 3-4 years old, you know, acknowledging me and saying I want to be a fighter just like Amanda Serrano. So I feel like I don't need to do that. I want to be a role model to these young girls. I want to show that boyfriend is not needed, cell phones are not needed. If you're dedicated, you know, they say greatness requires sacrifice and dedication, and I believe I've empowered that. I've showed that I can do it all. If you have a dream, there's no dream too big, and I just want to show that to young girls. Like, nothing is needed. You don't need to sell your body. You don't need to sell yourself to go out and be successful.
And what do you think about some of those fighters? It's almost as if some of those fighters have almost become like swimsuit models on IG now.
You know, it is what it is. That's their gimmick. I mean, some girls have it and they can do it. I mean, I honestly, as myself, I don't feel like I'm a sexy person. I mean, I try to. Some girls can do it. I definitely can't.
So it almost begged me to ask the question, have you thought about when Amanda Serrano will settle down, so to speak, get a boyfriend, maybe have a family?
When it's all over, when I'm retired, which is pretty soon. I see myself, I will be 33 next month. So I would say by 35, 36, I should definitely be retired, be happy, finally get my home in Puerto Rico. And I want homes in multiple places, but my first one being in Puerto Rico. And then just relaxing and hopefully finding a husband. Kids, I don't know. I love being an aunt. That's my favorite thing. I love them, I spoil them, and I give them right back to their parents.
The beauty of being an aunt, that's right. So talk to me about boxing. How in the heck did you get into it? And what did your mother and your father say when you were like, yes, I'm going to get into the sweet science and become a fighter?
Well, boxing started with my sister, Cindy Serrano. She had my niece. Well, she's now 20 years old with Jordan, and they both had my niece. And she wanted to get back, well, not back in shape, but she wanted to lose the little baby fat. So Jordan owned the gym, the boxing gym, and he said the only way, boxing it helps a lot. So she started, and then I was the babysitter at the time in the gym, and I was, my sister's #1 fan, and I would see all the guys come in and out. I would go to the Golden Gloves, watch them fight, go to professional fights and watch them. Not once did it ever cross my mind. But Jordan used to have something on Saturdays, Saturday Raw, where he would just throw everybody in there for sparring. And I went there, I did it twice with 2 girls, and it ended in 1 round. So I wasn't training. I just went in there just like a crazy woman. And then he put me in there one time with a boy my age. And that changed my whole perspective of boxing. He was fighting back, and he didn't quit like the girls. And I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was dying in there. And I told Jordan, get me out of here. And he was like, okay. He said, but I'm going to get you out of here, but don't you ever ask to box again. And I said, sure. I said, I this is not for me. And then after I graduated high school early in 3.5 years. And I was still working in the gym as a receptionist. I was training people here and there. And I signed up for the New York Daily News Golden Gloves in 2007, and I sent it out. And then that was the end of. I started training the same exact day I sent out that letter, and That's how it is. my mom doesn't like it too much. My dad is a fan, and that's it. They just like to brag sometimes.
And at what point did you realize you had eclipsed your sister? Because big sister is always the bully. But at what point did you start bullying the big sister?
Well, when I started as an amateur, I started knocking the girls out in the amateurs, and my sister was like, "Wait, what?" And then when it started becoming competitive and sparring, like Jordan, he actually in the beginning had my sister try to beat it out of me. Like, I don't want her to box. Like, just beat her up. And when I started becoming competitive with her, they both were like, well, this is a whole different girl. And I don't know what clicked. I had no idea. I was afraid of boxing for after that time I went in with the young boy. And now, I don't know, it's a different story now. Now
you're the woman.
Now I need to get punched in the face.
Your only loss came nearly 10 years ago against Frida Wahlberg. What do you remember about that fight?
I remember that fight being the first fight in someone's hometown where I was being booed. I was a young girl. I was young in the sport, and it was just something totally out of this world. Now I'm used to it, but it was definitely I felt like I didn't lose. I learned a lot from that fight, and it was a little like hometown decision. We went over there. They gave us 10-ounce gloves to neutralize our power. So it was a whole big thing, but I learned not to leave it to the judges.
Yeah. I always ask you this, and it's for good reason, because you look at your resume and you look at what you've done, and I know people will always bring up other people, and it's so subjective. But in your opinion, is Amanda Serrano the best female fighter walking on God's given earth right now?
I believe so. Every fight, I feel every performance and every article and every people like you who says these wonderful things about me. I start to believe it more and more. And I just want to be the best that I can be for myself. I'm my worst critic. Like I said, this fight, I felt like it wasn't my best performance. So you just go back to the gym, work harder, and come back the next fight and put on the performance that I wanted. So, I mean, people have their opinions, and I believe me and my team believe that we're the best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Amanda, for everyone who comes on the show, we allow people who listen to the podcast to submit questions. So we got a number of them from Twitter, so I want to get to them. The first one comes from Salvatore on Twitter, and he asks, how possible is it for you to call out Katie Taylor for a fight with 3-minute rounds? If you want the same pay, shouldn't you fight the same time per round?
Well, that's not what boxing is right now. We're fighting 2 minutes. But I wouldn't, if they paying us. It's people have their opinions with the 2 minutes and 3 minutes. I've done a tremendous job with the 2 minutes. If that was given to us 3 minutes, then we'll fight for 3 minutes. But yeah, I mean, once they add a couple more zeros to our paycheck, maybe they can add another minute to the round.
Okay. This one comes from Ruben from Twitter. He says, in your opinion, Amanda, who are you picking in this fight in their prime? Who would win, Miguel Cotto or Felix Trinidad?
Oh, I answered this one before. Tito Trinidad. I believe he was an amazing fighter, amazing power. And I love Cotto because, Cotto was my era. When I started boxing, he was the man. But Tito Trinidad just has amazing skills. And, yeah, sorry.
This one comes from Daniel from Twitter. He asks a few questions. First one, he says, will you be in that esports video game?
No, I won't.
Second question, he says, has Jumpman from Nike reached out to you yet for a collab or sponsorship yet? I guess they're starting to, work with female athletes.
Yeah, not yet. I'm waiting. Fingers crossed. I'm waiting for that phone call, that DM, whatever needs to be done.
Last but not least, he asks, Amanda, will you consider ever fighting in the UFC?
It's an option. I mean, wherever the opportunities are and the best pay, we have Bellator, we have UFC. I have Icon, which I just bought an MMA. I like Icon because it's a smaller organization, plus it's in a ring, and I'm so used to being in a ring. That's my office. So, wherever the opportunities are and the best opportunities.
Do you see yourself in another MMA fight at all in the future?
Yeah, I believe so. I definitely believe so. Like I said, one of my other goals is to become a champion, MMA champion and boxing champion at the same time. Even though it might be a little difficult, but I believe I can do it.
And we always ask this of the UFC fighters or MMA fighters when they try to make the transition. For a boxer trying to transition to MMA, what's the hardest part of the training you found?
The floor work, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. We're so used to being on our feet and just using our hands. So when we're on our backs, it's a total different ball game. So that's definitely, but we've learned that I won 2 gold medals in jiu-jitsu. So we did just jiu-jitsu tournaments, and that's something, I'm like a fish out of water there. So, yeah. And then plus I believe I'm the only boxer to have 2 submissions in MMA.
I love it. I
haven't got a knockout yet, just submissions.
Love it. Okay, Amanda, it's time for the last segment of this show. It is called The Last Stand. I'm going to just ask you a series of questions. You give me the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready, champ?
Yes.
All right, here we go. First question. In your opinion, who is the greatest Puerto Rican fighter?
Tito Trinidad.
Okay. Do you believe you can not only beat Katie Taylor, but when you fight, you will knock her out?
Yes.
Ooh. In your opinion, who is the GOAT when it comes to female fighting? Is it Christy Martin? Is it Ann Wolfe? Is it Layla Ali? In your opinion, who is the GOAT?
Clarissa Shields. She's done stuff that a lot of people, even men, haven't done. 2 Olympic gold medals, undisputed champion, 2 divisions. So
I love that. In your opinion, how much longer do you see Jake Paul fighting as a boxer?
whenever he wants to. I will say maybe a couple more years. I think he has it. He's young. He has a lot in him. So, and he has a lot to prove to everybody that he belongs in here.
And last but not least, by this time next year, Amanda Serrano will be, you finish the sentence.
Undisputed in 2 divisions.
Whoa. I love it. That's what we do. We bring you the biggest names in sports and entertainment, and then talk about women's boxing. And in the sport itself, one of the biggest stars is Amanda Serrano. Champ, I appreciate the time you gave us.
No, thank you so much for having me. And I always love the words you say about me. Is just sometimes it blows my mind. Like I still feel I'm like nobody, but when you talk and other commentators, and it just brings me back up. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Our job is to tell the truth. That's the only thing we're doing, Champ. That is all. Champ, thank you very much. Everyone, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.